Welcome back, everyone. I'm Kalani Das. This is another Sunday service, Music Mindfulness, and today in this talk, I'm going to be talking about improvisation, which is the music side, and resiliency, which is on the mindfulness side, and how we can learn and how music can inform our mindfulness practice and components of it by viewing and experiencing the mind of the musician or the experience of the musician and the lessons that we glean when we practice music, which I believe is a mindfulness practice. It's just on the creative, artistic end of the spectrum, as opposed to some other practices that are in the constellation of mindfulness practices that might be more based towards yoga, for example, or other teachings. So there's lots of teachings in the constellation of mindfulness, and of course going all the way back to some of the more prominent Chinese philosophers, Lao Tzu in particular. But however you practice, it's the practice. And it's putting things into practice that really matters the most. So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about improvisation. And I'm going to play a little bit more. That was an improvisation, what I just did, the music that I just made on the handpan. How do we improvise? Why is it important to be prepared as opposed to preparing? And what are the pitfalls of preparation as opposed to being prepared? So what does being prepared mean? What are the pitfalls of preparing, or what we also call planning? It's big stuff, you guys. This is important. And it can really be helpful if you get that, if you understand the difference, and you can catch yourself, for example, if you start planning. But let's talk about improvisation. Improvisation has been defined as making do with what is available at the time. Or, creating, doing the job, whatever you need to do, with what is available at the time. That's basically what improvisation is. In some circles or in some views, improvisation could be looked at as a ad hoc kind of, well, we don't have what we need, so we're going to improvise something, right? But that's not always a bad thing. Improvisation is the seed of invention. Improvisation is really how we innovate, how we create technology, how we create solutions. Improvisation is really probably one of the most important skills in one's life, in one's work life, in one's personal life, in your spiritual life, interpersonal life, your relationships that you have with others, and within yourself, and with the world in general. So what are some basic improvisation techniques? What's the philosophy of improvisation? Well, one drummer colleague of mine put it this way. And he used to tell a story about how he used to play this kind of game with his mother, and they'd sit at the table, and he said, my mother taught me this, and she would take a piece of paper, and she'd take a pen or pencil, and she would draw a line. And then she would pass the paper across to him. And then he would draw a line, one line, so pen or pencil touches the paper once, draw something, pass it back. And they would just not have a plan, but they would keep drawing the lines and adding and adding and adding, and some piece of art would be formed. So let's look at that, or let's listen to that. What would that sound like as a piece of music? Music is lines. It's dots that create lines. And actually with this instrument, with the handpan, it really is literally dots that create lines. Striking the dots, creating lines. Just like musical notation is dots that create lines. And eventually shapes, forms, structure, and meaning. So what would that sound like if we used that approach of just draw a line, and it's something simple. You don't have something in mind already, you're going to try something. You're just trying something. Now, from here, I'm not passing this across to somebody else, but I'm doing this myself. So from here, I have a choice. I tried something. I wasn't sure what it was going to sound like. Just like you in your life, whatever your work is, whatever you do, try something. You get the feedback. In this case, I hear it, right? I feel it, I hear it, I experience it. And then from that moment, I have several choices. I can do it again, I can repeat it, or go deeper into, towards that direction. I can deepen that line by repeating it. I can do something completely different. I could stop or pause or just change direction, do something that's very contrasting. Or I could do something that's similar, but not exactly the same. And we call that a theme, a development on a theme, or variations on a theme. And that really is what scientists do, what writers do, they experiment. All artists do that. We experiment with a theme. So the theme is so in music, in life, in art, we have themes, we have the ability to create tension, and we love tension. Tension is what brings satisfaction when it is resolved, right? It's the big Hollywood movie ending. It's the end of the symphony orchestra. It's the end of the song. It's the rock and roll ending. It's the kiss at the end of a romance. Tension is our friend. Tension is what makes life interesting. So we're not trying to shy away from tension. In fact, in art, tension is very important. Sometimes tension can be created with a pause, without doing anything. So sometimes the negative space creates tension. Sometimes it's mashing things together. And then we have the satisfaction of that release of, or moving into harmony. And in fact, those of you who are in long-term relationships know, I'm assuming that you know, I'm guessing that you know, that tension and then with another person, like arguing, having a debate, working through issues, that when explored and when you experiment and when you improvise through a relationship, often on the other side of that, you have a great harmony or release or feeling of satisfaction from having worked through that. And part of that process is vulnerability. I'm reminded now of the Brené Brown TED Talk that is probably one of the most popular TED Talks ever, and I recommend that you watch that. She's got several now, but the original Brené Brown TED Talk, she talks about vulnerability and how it's just so important for living an authentic life and you know, making progress and creating the kind of relationships with yourself and with others that are satisfying and beneficial, and I think end up producing the kinds of feeling throughout your life that you want to produce. Because here's the thing. We often, I think, maybe through our education process, consider life to be like an achievement-based process, right? What have you achieved? What have you done? What do you have? What do you make? Where do you live? What do you drive? What are the letters after your name? All that stuff. That's all achievement stuff, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with achieving things. However, if you think about the timbre of your life, the quality of the fabric of your life, right, if you will, the feeling. What's the feeling you have every day when you wake up or you go to sleep? If you pause and stop doing stuff, stop planning, and unbusy yourself, how do you feel? What's your resting state? What does it feel like? And I mean really feel. I mean sit and check in and feel the feeling of your life, of being alive, first of all, and just sit and feel. Experience the feeling of your life. What does it feel like? Is that what you want to feel? Does it feel good to you? Is there something that doesn't feel right? Because no amount of achievement, you know, you can have all the money in the world, you can have 18 houses, but how do you feel when you sit? How do you feel when you're just being? Because all that stuff is not going to change whether or not you feel uptight or you feel relaxed. You can feel very comfortable with very little in terms of achievement. You can also feel very tense and unsatisfied with lots of achievement. So achievement is over here on the side. That's happening over here. The feeling of your life is in a different place. It comes from a different place. And a lot of it has to do with how you create and manage your relationships. So are you caring for, are you nurturing your relationships? Are you skilled at managing your own thoughts and feelings and emotions so you can feel how you want to feel every day? because that's your life. That's the quality of your life. The quality of your life is the quality of your feeling state, of your emotional state, each and every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. That's it. So are you taking care of yourself? And you can do that. And I think you can better take care of yourself if you're a good improviser. Because what is improvisation? It's making do, right? It's creating, it's saying, whatever's here is enough for me. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work. Wherever I am, whatever I have, I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to improve it or enjoy it or accept it, all of those things. What's the opposite of that? The opposite of that, of being in the improviser's mindset, which is yes. The improviser says yes and wow and oh, isn't this cool? And what can I do with this? I can draw this line. So what's the opposite of that? That's the person that starts off the day saying, I shouldn't be living like this. They shouldn't be doing that. My life should be different somehow. I don't have what I need to feel good, because what I need is this and this and this and this. And then when I have those, then I'm going to feel good, right? Wrong. Or I'm planning on this and this and this, and then when that doesn't happen exactly the way I planned, now I'm upset, right? You all know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We experience this in music, and this is why I say, again, music is a mindfulness practice, because music teaches us resiliency. It teaches us improvisation. It teaches us how to manage, how to flourish by making do with what we have. Not by planning, not by preparing, but by being prepared. What's the difference? What do you mean? I'm supposed to be prepared, but I'm not supposed to prepare? Well, what I mean is preparing as in developing your skills, developing your capacity to be an improviser, to be somebody who can make do with what is available at the time. That's what I mean by being prepared. How do we do that? We practice. We have practices. We play. We play music. We make art. We play sports. Sports can be helpful too. And we notice where we have a block, we work through it, we get better at it, we get better at acceptance, at accepting ourselves. We don't cringe and withdraw when we make a mistake. A mistake is just labeling something that you do with a judgmental label, right? I didn't mean to do that, but I did it. Oh, I feel bad. Do I? Why should you feel bad? You do your best, you try things out. Sometimes this happens, sometimes that happens. There's always something happening. If you judge it as a mistake, then okay. But you created that label and you created that feeling for yourself. Other people help you, of course. Other people will be happy to chime in and and judge you. Okay, but we're not talking about that right now, because that's always going to happen. There's always a certain amount of that, we know, especially online, but even before, forever, people will stand on the sidelines and judge. Okay, that's a different topic for a different day. Right now, we're just talking about what's my process, because that's really going to determine largely how I feel. Just real quick though, on the sideline judges, on all the judges that are out there in the world, You just have to decide if A, somebody's opinion is super valid, if it's really valid or not, and how much are you going to let that affect you? Can you just allow people to have their own, judgments and thoughts, which they will, but not take it personally? That's all. I mean, people are going to have their own thoughts and opinions, and that's fine. But that's about them. Even if they say it's about you, it's about them. So yeah, we'll talk about that another day, get into that a little bit more. So planning is the enemy of creativity. Planning gets us in a space where we say, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know. Let me think about this some more. I really need to figure out what I'm going to do. I really want to start. I want to do this. I mean, I want to be an artist. I do. But I just don't know how it's going to come out. What if it's not good? What if I embarrass myself? I don't know. Maybe I'll just play by myself for a while. And maybe if I do it alone, I can protect my ego from judgment. Maybe I'll just think it's not important. Yeah, whatever. It's just music. It doesn't really matter. Planning is what we call a groove killer. Planning doesn't get things done so much. Okay, yeah, we need a little bit of, the planner mentality in our lives, I suppose. Depends how you want to live. If you're Jack Kerouac and you're on the road, I guess you don't need planning, right? It depends on you, on your comfort level. I mean, everybody's different. Some people get comfort in planning, but the problem is, what if it doesn't go according to the plan? Now, you need to be an improviser. You need to be comfortable. So that's really the message for today, folks. You can practice improvisation at any level. That's important. Every single person, whether you're a child, an adult, an older adult, whether you have abilities or special abilities, disabilities, preferences, whatever you have to work with is enough. Because that's what you have at the time, isn't it? And whatever you have at your disposal, whether it's a hand pan like this, or a garbage can that you turn over, is enough. Because that's what you have to work with in the moment. It's not about having, quote, the right tools or the right toys or enough stuff. Don't let yourself get sucked into that black hole of thinking. That thinking, I just need this, then I can start, right? I need better equipment. How many people out there on YouTube with huge channels that shoot on a cell phone, on a smartphone? It's not about the gear, folks. Of course it's nice to have good equipment. I just made an investment in my studio after 6 years. I'm into the 700s of videos now. I made an investment. Did I do it for myself? Not really. I did it for you. I did it for you, the people watching, so you could have nice pictures, nice photos, and nice sound. So we usually acquire things. I think, look at fashion. I mean, I think people get dressed up for other people, largely. It's why, and it's how important is it to you. That's really the key. Does it really matter? No. Is it window dressing? Sure. Is it nice? Sure. Why not? But it's not critical, right? Don't let it stop you from doing things and experimenting and being an artist and having fun and creating relationships and feeling the way you want to feel when you stop and you pause. I've known people throughout my life who seem to have trouble with silence. You know, maybe you know people like that, or you are somebody like that. When you've got to have the radio on, the TV, or watching, or something going on, and if there's not something happening, or you might busy yourself all the time. But if you pause or stop, then you feel uneasy. All right, you need to. I would recommend. I'm not telling you you have to do this, but I would recommend that you explore that. If you feel uneasy when you are paused and you're not busy, look into that. Because that's something that you could clear away, and then you could become calm with silence. You could become okay with sitting with, or just being. You don't have to actually sit in lotus position with your fingers in a mudra like a Buddha statue. You don't have to do that. That's not really what I mean when I just say stop and sit. You could do that. Some people do that. But that's fancy sitting. You don't have to do any fancy sitting. You could just stop doing stuff and be comfortable and just pause and check in. Like I said at the beginning of this talk, just check in with the feeling of being. If you have trouble with that, if you do that and you feel nervous or uneasy, then that's something for you to explore. And I've talked about how to do that, and I will talk about how to do that in the future. But that's my recommendation. Another thing about improvisation, and then I'm going to wrap up, is that when you improvise with others, just remember that it's a cumulative effect. So you don't have to know everything. You don't have to bring all the answers. You don't have to do everything. In fact, you shouldn't. Because if you fill up all the space, and I've played with musicians who are very busy players, and it's not fun. Why? Because it's like talking to somebody, it's like having a conversation with somebody who just never stops talking. And they don't leave any space, and then it's just not a conversation. It's not an interaction. It's not a co-creation. There's not a balanced exchange. And I think for most of us, I'll speak for myself right now, but I like to feel when I'm having a dialogue with somebody that there's not only a theme, but that there's a mutual theme. In other words, both people relate to the topic. We're both invested. We both relate to it. We want to be talking about the topic, and we've got something to contribute. And there's a back and forth. There's a back and forth. There's a balance. There's a reciprocity. So if, and I'll just go back to music, if somebody is constantly playing and their playing is very filling and it's busy, it just doesn't, it's not conducive to what I just described. And so if most people, I think, like to have some kind of balanced engagement where they feel like they can contribute something, they can represent themselves and their thoughts and their stories in the conversation, and they're being heard, which means when you're listening to somebody, which means you reflect back to them a little bit about what you heard. And we do that in music, and that's why practicing as a musician, practicing music is so beneficial to then transferring those skills of listening and of improvisation, of balance, of having a dialogue that's meaningful, because that's what we do in music. We create a dialogue, and then there's a response. And then there's another, an answer. another response. And maybe a resolution. And on and on and on. Okay. So that's really it for today. I want to thank you for joining me. I know there's some people writing comments. As I've mentioned before, I'm about 6 feet away from my computer, so I don't read the comments. Maybe we'll do another format where I have something closer and I can read it and we can do a little more interaction. But I want to just say I appreciate your comments. Keep your comments kind and helpful. That's what I try to do. It's easy to not do that, but I find it more satisfying to, try to contribute and make things better for everyone and yourself. And I think you'll find if you do, go through your online life and your real-time life, your in-person life, with a helpful attitude and a helpful actions, however you behave when you're with others, just be helpful, and I think you'll find that energy really comes back around and it'll come back to you, and the opposite is true. All right, so that's just that's just an observation that I have from my own living my own life. You can make your own choices as far as that goes. I hope that you all got something out of today's talk, and you got a little glimpse into how music and how the mind of the improviser can inform a mindfulness practice. And mindfulness, a mindfulness practice is really just a way to improve your relationship with your own thoughts and feelings as they relate to, your inner life and the world around you. That's all it is. Right? It's not a fancy mystical thing that you have to go to a mountaintop, and pay a lot of money to take lessons in. It's just improving your relationship and with your mind and your body, and improving your skills in using your mind, using your thoughts, managing your thoughts, and then, kind of relating to the world. All right, pretty simple, you guys. Not complicated, not mysterious. There's no magic involved. And I've worked on a magic show. I worked on an illusion show for a while, back in the mid-'80s. And one of the things that they were fond of reminding us on the set of this show, it ran about a year, it's like a David Copperfield type show, as they used to say, remember, there's no magic in a magic show. The magic in a magic show is inside here. That's why it's fun. It lets us, imagine that there is magic, which I'm a big fan of. But I'm just saying there's no actual magic in a magic show, and that's okay. But there's no magic in a mindfulness experience either. It's just managing, it's understanding how your mind works and improving your skills of using your mind and living, and so you can feel how you want to feel. All right, so however that is, however you want to feel, I hope that this talk helps you, gives you a little more juice, a little more direction, a few ideas. Maybe you can add a line now to the lines that I've given you, and take it, put it into practice. All right, don't plan. There's no planning. There's just doing, improvise, right? All right, I'm going to play a little bit more. I want to thank everybody for watching today, and all of the patrons at patreon.com/Kalani. If you'd like to connect with me a little more over there, you're welcome to. You can also send me an email through kalanimusic.com and kalanidas.com, where you can listen to the Evolve podcast series. There's about 20 episodes I produced over there and on the iTunes store. And I also want to thank Cameron Gray at parablevisions.com for allowing me to use his beautiful artwork for the thumbnails and in these videos. If you'd like to find out more, go to parablevisions.com and look at his beautiful artwork over there. All right, I'm Kalani Das. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful week, and I'll plan on seeing you soon for another installment, another talk, a Sunday service of music mindfulness. And we'll go out with a little bit of improvisation.